Greetings, dear Astro friends. It's Melanie here on the 11th of April 2023. We are nearing end of Aries. This is the last week of Aries, which goes only until April 19th. On April 20th, the sun will enter Taurus. And so much more is in the making for April 19th, 20th. In other words, the solar eclipse season will start. So with a bang, basically, with a hybrid annular slash total solar eclipse. Haven't quite checked yet why that is so. With a hybrid, it might appear at some places as a annular, at other places as a total solar eclipse, depending on where you are on a path. That is my guess, but to be confirmed. On that note also, Mercury will go retrograde on the day after the eclipse, so better confirming, which is what I mean is the 21st of April, because the eclipse happens on the 19th or the 20th, depending on where you are on planet Earth with your time zone. Here on the west coast of Canada and US, it is the 19th already. And yes, we're building up to that. We're building up or gearing down to Mercury retrograde, two factors, and also the eclipse that I'll talk more about next week for the weekly Astro News and Astro Weather of that week. That eclipse will also square Pluto in Aquarius from the cusp of Aries to Taurus. So that is quite a strong eclipse, and definitely worth already putting our feelers out in terms of its energy, its message, what is required here, because it's already building up, of course. It's just 1 week to go. And typically eclipses have a build-up phase of weeks, and also a gearing down or a building down phase, an integration phase of also a few weeks. Some even say the energy goes from eclipse to eclipse. In other words, there's always something to refer to regarding the previous or upcoming eclipse. Anyway, this eclipse on the cusp, let me just bring it out so we can look at it this time and next time. So this eclipse, I call it Aries Taurus. Have to take it out of this plastic protection sheet. So here we go. So Aries to Taurus. Aries Taurus is basically, what I mean by that is the cusp where it happens, where that new moon happens next week on the 19th for us here on the west coast at 9:12 p.m. and it's right on the cusp, as you see here, and there's so much going on from Aries to Taurus, with the peak of it, the eclipse, the sun, the moon, and the north node. Technically, sun and moon will be on the very last degree of Aries before entering Taurus. The moon soon afterwards. The moon will enter Taurus just literally 15 or 16, 17 minutes after the eclipse or after the new moon, and the sun will enter Taurus on the 20th for most of the world. Yes. So anyway, this is super cuspy, and it pulls all this energy together from Aries, starting with Chiron and then Jupiter, and also Taurus with Mercury about to go retrograde, and Uranus. What is this about? What is the cusp all about? It's about settling. It's the settling point from Aries to Taurus, where on planet Earth, where physically and also in your body, in your enjoyable beingness of being human, do you settle? What do you enjoy? How do you feel in your body? How does the spirit of Aries, right, and of life take form? It's a seed eclipse because it comes with a north node. So new seeds are being planted. This is literally a wonderful time for planting new seeds in spring. And it's also planting new seeds wherever that Aries Taurus cusp falls in your chart. It could be also for lots of us relating to business seeds, because Aries is also entrepreneurial or takes initiative and is independent, and Taurus likes to manifest something based on their values. So this is also related to business. And it's very much related to values, to anything we value, including nature and including what gives us security. So there's definitely themes around the economy and around the monetary and banking system are here. Shifts are in the making. New seeds are being planted. And what does it have to do with society as a whole? Society is the theme where Pluto is currently on the cusp from Capricorn to Aquarius. Capricorn has to do with structures and institutions, also hierarchies, also old empire, as I call it, the old ways of top down. And Aquarius has to do with humanity and has to do with sharing and with sharing resources is a big theme with Capricorn Aquarius. And also social justice, because early Aquarius has a Libra undertone. So there's also themes around fairness, justice, equality, right relationship, in this case between people in society and between, so to say, also privileged ones and less privileged ones. It's a hierarchical or the vertical equality versus the horizontal equality you have in one-on-one relationships. So a lot in the making in that regard, just planting seeds here for your awareness as we're going actually to the this week's Astro Weather. What's up? So since yesterday evening, Venus entered Gemini and will be there until May the double checking, May the 7th. So that is a light and delightful and cheerful energy that we so much need. There's been a lot of heaviness here going on, and lots of also from the Aries side, kind of aggressive and lots of things coming our way, a bombardment with things. Of course, nothing like real warfare, but still also war being on our mind and war being waged on our minds and all that. So Venus in Gemini adds lightness and also adds a inclination and attraction to learning. And so we might be actually in these weeks now much more inclined to find to learn something new, actually, to be curious, right? Maybe certain interests. Let's say, okay, so here's an example, because Venus and Saturn in Pisces will create an aspect on Friday the 14th. Apparently not such a nice one, but square. Something wants to be done about it and needs to be addressed and attended to. Let's see what that square is all about. But the Gemini Pisces piece is, for example, learning music, learning about new styles of music that you haven't been exposed to or interested in a while, or photography, film, media, anything that could use a fresh approach that you want to learn about. And yes, so Venus makes two aspects this week as she is freshly in Gemini. The first is the trine with Pluto, which already happened last night, shortly after entering Aquarius. That one is rather quite, yeah, so it's strengthening energy, right? So, how can we learn from each other? It's about society, friendship, community, and communication and connection in that regard. So, maybe you have also reconnected with people where new community bonds can be forged that can be actually much deeper and more impactful than you would consider at this point. And it all starts with a spark, with attraction, and maybe also having things in common. Why do we attract one another? Maybe because there are similarities and there's a like-mindedness here. And so wherever Venus is currently, wherever Gemini is in your chart, this is where Venus travels through until May 7th. And it can bring attractions to your life and even new love interests that may want to go deeper after that phase, because Venus in Gemini is rather light-hearted and flirtatious, but not necessarily deep. So Venus actually in Gemini and Mercury in Taurus for a super long time, right? Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus, as I said, on the 21st of April until May 14th, and will still be in Taurus till June 11th. So Venus is just much shorter in Gemini until May 7th, but in that period is when Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. So Venus is in the sign of Mercury, Gemini, and Mercury is in the sign of Venus, which is Taurus. So they reinforce each other's themes. And so that can be also literally new interests in nature, going to nature, planting, shopping also, if you want to shop for gardening and balcony and plant needs. That would be perfect time for that and perfect season for it. And getting inspired to try something new out, right? Maybe also try on something new. So it can be very tempting also to go on a shopping spree with Mercury in Taurus and Venus in Gemini. So take it easy, take it light. And on that note, Venus in Gemini will square Saturn in Pisces, as I said, on April 14th, this Friday, which will be Orthodox Good Friday. And the Venus square Saturn dynamic, which pretty much comes twice a year, because now Saturn, for example, is in Pisces. So when Venus is in Gemini, she squares Saturn, and also when Venus is in Sag, she squares Saturn. And so that dynamic doesn't typically bode so well for the most harmonious dynamics in love relationships. You rather come up against some areas of conflict, which can be also very revealing. Like, for example, with Saturn now, Saturn wants to teach us in Pisces about vibrations, right? So do our vibrations really match, even though on a mental, intellectual, communicative level, there's an attraction, says Venus in Gemini, but Saturn puts things to a test and says, how do I overall feel, and how's my energy, where's my vibration a while or after I've been with you, right? So this is a good, don't take it as a frustrating experience, which it might be, but also as a good teaching. And what else is on this week? Venus in Gemini. Typically, it's about alchemy. Yes, it's also about alchemy of lightness and likeness and lightness and love. So, what's with alchemy? Gemini represents polarities, right? Polarities of yin and yang, masculine, feminine, day and night, this and that. So anything that opposes each other, but they're complementary opposites. And with Gemini, the interesting challenge arises to bring those together and bring them together inside of us. To find the inner masculine, feminine in us, and to let them communicate with each other and be in synergy rather in conflict. And we might not have to change our gender externally. It might be actually a factor of coming to terms, of integrating and alchemizing the inner masculine feminine to be more whole and complete. And so then, yes, so April 11th, tomorrow, the sun in Aries passes Jupiter. That happens once a year, depending where Jupiter is currently. And this year, still in Aries, going into Taurus next month. But now in Aries, end of Aries, the sun has reached the point where Jupiter is and will pass Jupiter. You can see that also in the chart of the new moon next week, that the sun has already passed Jupiter. So here is the new moon. Jupiter is behind in Aries, and the sun will pass Jupiter tomorrow. So that combination of the two biggest bodies of our solar system is quite something. So I'm asking you, I'm checking in, is there something big in the making? Is there other big revelations and realizations and understandings that pop up in a way from the Aries side quite fast and quite furious and quite abundantly? So maybe all of a sudden you see things in a completely fresh light and with new eyes. That would be great. And that can also lead to growth or to outgrowing something. Outgrowing dynamics regarding Aries, which can be also certain areas of conflict or also a battling, and or also feeling like I'm the only one here, I'm alone here, which also relates to Chiron in Aries. So see what wants to be seen at this point and understood, and so that there's growth and expansion for you because of that. We did, like, here's a little example today in our Astro 404 group, which is about transits. We looked at the course of, from Earth's perspective, of course, of the sun throughout the chart, right? So the first transit is the transit of the sun through the year. And so we went in the chart through houses 1 to 12 and could explore when the sun is in one's first house, what is there, what gets activated, what gets enlightened, and awareness, consciousness is being activated at that time, energy and feeling more alive in that regard. So going through the whole chart, even just looking at the time of year and your yearly cycle with that is really cool and has been very appreciated. So new gifts, also Jupiter in Aries, and also it's about being bold, getting going, doing something, and getting something started. However, with the caveat of Mercury retro. So Mercury about to go retro will can play tricks with us, and things don't necessarily manifest in the way we might like them to. With Taurus, we might have to backtrack and see, okay, something needs to be put into place, needs to be needs to be met and more understood about, and in a different way. So maybe it's almost as if you planted seeds literally in the garden at a wrong place, where they don't really sprout, where they don't really um, come to life, and you might want to shift that. So with Taurus, that's just a little symbolic example. And then we have the lunar cycle. Yes. So the moon is now in Capricorn. Have you noticed the shift this morning when the moon entered Capricorn, coming out of Sagittarius? The energy got there's more gravitas, there's more heaviness. Actually, there's more grounding, definitely needing to be grounded, back to the drawing board, back to what works best after our high flying visions and plans. So maybe also slowing down, always good for Capricorn, and being resourceful and being managing our time and energy well. Moon in Capricorn also waning now, and then we'll go into Aquarius and Pisces for this week, for this end of Aries week. So the moon will go into Aquarius on the 13th. That's Thursday afternoon, and then be in Aquarius until Saturday afternoon at around 4 o'clock, and then go into Pisces, and we'll be in Pisces until Monday evening. We'll go into Aries. What did I say? Pisces. We'll go into Aries on Monday evening, and then building up to the eclipse on the very last degree of Aries. So there's lots building, and also basically unraveling before the eclipse. But for now, the Capricorn moon can bring stability and can bring us groundedness, and also it's about priorities and essentials. Then the moon in Aquarius, yeah, that's important, because when the moon goes into Aquarius, we'll automatically pass Pluto, now freshly in Aquarius. And that will be all on Thursday afternoon. See that the moon enters Aquarius at 1:42 p.m. and passes Pluto at 2:11. So that's less than half an hour later, right? And Passover also ends at that time. That's interesting. In the Jewish tradition, I don't know enough about it, but maybe there's an alignment with that moon-Pluto dynamic. And in any case, it's a good time of the month, once a month, when the moon goes into Aquarius and meets Pluto, right? A good time to actually go into deeper, more soulful, more essential levels of your own humanity. What is it for you to be human at this time and moving forward? And also being with real humans whom you resonate with. So that gets emphasized, and in the meantime, shadow comes out too. Shadow also as in evolution. In other words, how have you or have other people changed? And are these signals of evolution? We're all coming out, which could be great, out of old disempowering conditions. Awesome. And then you can relate to people in a new way. Or maybe you or them, they have changed in a way that is not so empowering and is not so relatable. So question is then, what needs to process here, right? And of course, much more to come as Pluto moves in and out and through Aquarius in these 2 years is transition years. Aquarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, 2023, 24, and then 20 years in Aquarius. So big changes in society, lots of shadow often coming out at the beginning of such a shift. In other words, these looming demons of transhumanism, post-humanism, and such. I wrote an article for Pluto in Aquarius on my blog. If you're interested, check it out. The link to my blog is always below on the notes, in the notes for this video. And then the moon goes into Pisces on Saturday afternoon, where the moon will meet Saturn, which we might also see in the morning sky. I'm not so sure, but that would be before the new moon. And if you get up early enough, you might see Saturn, and at dawn, and see the moon, the waning moon, with Saturn on Saturday to Sunday, this coming weekend. And what does it mean energetically? The moon meets Saturn. So that is a little bit related to the moon in Capricorn, where it is right now, but not quite the same. Often people just, like interchangeably use signs and planets, right? So Saturn is not the same as Capricorn, but there's a similarity. So what's with moon Saturn in Pisces? The moon in Pisces is very sensitive and is very, can feel easily overwhelmed. So with Saturn, what can help you there is actually to say, okay, I just need, what do I need for my energy right now? Maybe I need to sleep. I need to sleep. Maybe I need to be immersed in water, literally. Take a bath, take a shower, or go to the water, go to the ocean, or go dancing, go to music. So anything where you can let go and at the same time sort of a shift of energy and vibration can happen. That's a lot to learn with Saturn in Pisces these years. And when the moon meets Saturn, things come up more personally, more emotionally. Then the moon will be, as I said, over the weekend in Pisces, and eventually on Monday evening, 17th, go into Aries. That's about it for today. I'm just checking whether I forgot something. Yeah, basically, again, full circle. The eclipse season starts with the total / annular hybrid blue moon, blue new moon in this case, right? Because it's the second new moon in Aries. Solar eclipse on April 19th or 20th, depending on where you are on planet Earth. And we're building up for that. We're coming into that eclipse window here. I close here and wish you well for this week. Hopefully also more sunshine again, as we're having here on the West Coast after a quite gray and rainy weekend. So everybody, including the plants, are much happier. And see you again next week on the 17th for the following week, which is the eclipse week, or before if we see each other in person. Bye-bye. Take care.